Welcome to Autism Knows No Borders, a podcast where people connected to autism inspire change and build community. Together with the Global Autism Project, I'm your host, Rachel Harmon, a professional with over a decade of experience in the field of autism services, outreach, and advocacy. Unfortunately, cultural stigma around autism still exists. Whether you know from personal experience or through someone who has been impacted by it, you'll want to listen to this episode with Meghan Ashley. Meghan is a licensed professional counselor who has her own private practice, M-Perfect Consulting, where she provides support to women, people of color, autistic individuals, and clients with intersectional identities. This episode is part one of our conversation. We discuss the validity of self-diagnosis when you don't have access to a formal diagnosis, how Meghan uses what she describes as, quote, neurodivergent life equations to make her everyday life easier, parenting autistic children, how to break the stigma around autism within the Black community, teaching her Black autistic sons about police interactions, and how to avoid misinformation when searching for autism resources online. In this episode, discover what's possible when dialogue opens the door. And now, I present you Meghan Ashley.
Hi, I'm Meghan Ashley. I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor in Texas. I have a private practice called Imperfect Consulting, where I see women, people of color, and people who are autistic in the intersections of those different identities. I also do adult autism assessments, and I also teach clinicians all around the world how to do culturally competent adult autism assessments as well.
Amazing. So we're all different kinds of hats.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you find out about your autism? When were you diagnosed?
I'm 38, so at 34-ish.
Okay.
So it was after my kids had already been diagnosed, after I'd been working in the field. I've been working with autistic people for my entire career, including in graduate school. At my practicum, we formed this group called the Other AA. It was the Autism Alliance of college students who were first-year college students, and they were all autistic. And so we noticed that we had a big population of autistic students coming in. And so we formed this group, and we got to do really cool things where it was kind of social, not teaching social skills, but like social as in we were all hanging out and giving them a place to call home. And then we would do things like practice going on dates and stuff because they wanted to figure out how to order food when you're out with someone who you're not used to being around, like practicing and priming and going through different scenarios so that they could feel more comfortable with the transition from high school to college and from adolescence to adulthood. And so that was really cool to do during my practicum. But I've been fascinated with autism my entire life. I didn't know it was because I was autistic the whole time.
Interesting. So what finally pushed you to get an assessment or an evaluation?
So I'm self-identified, and I say that I'm self-identified by peer review. And that's
okay.
Where I'm saying other autistic people who I've had conversations with are like, oh, no, you're absolutely autistic. And then because I was already an autism assessor, by the time I figured out that I was autistic, I had all of the testing materials and I was able to read through all of the things when the light bulb came on. And it was like, oh, okay. If I put myself through these and I start asking myself these questions, then I see what the answers are. And it's definitely autism.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And so, yeah, a lot of people kind of self-diagnose. Can you talk about why that's enough for you and why you don't need a formal diagnosis?
Yeah, I personally believe that self-diagnosis, self-identification is valid. Myself, I feel that way. The greater autism community generally feels that way. And I feel that way really because autism, when we're talking about the internal experience of an adult who would be late diagnosed, it's a lot of layers that you have to dig through in order to get past all of the masking, get past all of shame and doubt and guilt and all of these things that you've been burying for so long that the only person who's going to know all about your autism is yourself. And so even being an autism assessor, I tell people all the time, you don't have to come and get an assessment to know you're autistic. All I'm doing is help confirm it for you with the data. And so if you have the data from research, you have the data from self. The data from self always trumps data from research because it is such an internalized experience of a late diagnosed autistic adult. When we're looking at kids, it's a lot of observed behaviors because kids don't always have the vocabulary to tell you what's going on in their head. But adults, by the time they get to be how I was at 34, they're able to verbalize, I get anxious when this happens. This is the thing that I feel when this happens. And I feel like an alien because everyone else knows how to communicate and my communication style is different. And so we're really looking at that internal experience. And the only person who has access to that is you. And I tell assessors all the time, the only way you're going to have a valid and accurate autism assessment for an adult is if you get access to their vault, that autism vault in their brain, so that you would have access to all of that information. They're the only people who have it. So I find that it's valid. You know you better than anyone. An autism assessor would just be helping you to tease out what you already know, who you already are, and determine if it's consistent with other people who are autistic or if it isn't.
Okay. Got it. So it's like maybe a step for people who don't have access to a formal diagnosis with like a psychiatrist or something, right? Because there can be some barriers to that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are definitely barriers to it. And that's one of the things that I do with my autism assessments is I try to knock down a lot of the barriers because I'm a master's level clinician. I'm not a psychologist, but I have been trained on how to use the psychiatric tests in order to determine autism. And so because of that, I can charge less than what a psychiatrist or a psychologist would charge for an autism assessment. And I have lived experience. And so I teach, like I said, people all over the world, other clinicians, other therapists, how to do this as well, because we most times will give you a more accurate diagnosis because we know what autism looks like from the inside out. We're able to tell you what it feels like to have a meltdown and really relate to what that actually means, what it feels like to feel like you don't know what people are trying to tell you, and how it actually mirrors our own internal experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got it.
Mm-hmm.
So how does autism affect your everyday life?
In every single way. Yes.
Yeah, sometimes people are like, but this is just how I live my life. Like, how do I answer that?
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. So what are some things that maybe you can point out would be different for someone who's non-autistic to better understand your experience?
Yeah, great question. We can start with waking up in the morning. I hate being woken up by someone else. Cannot stand it. I always just thought I wasn't a morning person. Turns out, when I started really digging into it, it's a transition piece. It's a transition from asleep to awake. It's a transition that I would like to make myself. I don't like it when other people put me through transitions that are on their terms and not my own. And waking up is one of the biggest transitions of my day. And so once I was already identified as autistic and I started looking into all the ways that I'm autistic, that was when I really noticed is that when someone else wakes me up, it feels very jarring to me. It feels very like it's taking away my autonomy. So that PDA piece comes out, that pervasive demand for autonomy. I want control over my own schedule. I want control over what I'm doing next because it makes me understand the unknowns that become known. I know when I'm going to wake myself up. I don't know when someone's going to barge in my room and wake me up. And so therefore, I had to really understand how I would like to start my day and how that snowballs into how the rest of my day goes. And so it's very important how I wake up in the morning. I have certain alarms set. I have certain tones on my alarms that feel more soothing to me. I have a sunset or a sunlight alarm where it like slowly makes the room fill with like sunlight. So it's like more natural. And so I had to figure out ways so it didn't feel like I was ripped out of my sleep every morning so that it wouldn't snowball throughout the rest of my day. I always thought it was irrational or I was overreacting to how I woke up in the morning and how it would trigger me through the rest of the day until I recognized that it was an autistic transition. So that's just one way that a lot of times we feel like we're broken or we're alien or why can't I just do this? I'm never going to be one of those people who's a 5 a.m. wake up, dunk your face in ice, go for a run, like that whole thing that the influencers are doing now. That's never going to be me. 5 a.m. is not my time. I rock 10 a.m. like nobody's business. Like I'm great at 10 a.m., slow mornings, nice coffee, gentle wake up. And we find that with our kids too, a lot of the times that the school schedules are insane when it comes to what time our kids have to wake up to get to school. It's just not normally working with their natural rhythm. And therefore, we're already sending them off on a note that may not be good for them, our autistic children, when it comes to going to school. So it's just something to take into consideration. The transitions throughout your day can color how your day goes. And so that's something that I teach the my clients, the autistic clients, and the clinicians who are helping autistic clients, that transitions are so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can definitely relate to the 10 a.m. wake up and the slow mornings. I love my morning time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So you wrote an article about neurodivergent life equations. And this is talking about how to modify if-then statements to work for the neurodivergent mind. Could you share some of those examples?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the blogs that's on my website. And that was such a fun article to write. I love if-then statements because it gives you rules to live by. And I tell people all the time that you have probably have a faulty me manual. So the manual for how to live your life, you probably have a faulty one because it's been a hand-me-down. It's been from somebody else's me manual, the way they would like to live their lives. And we always get them. We get them from friends, from parents, from religion, from wherever you get those rules for life. But especially after an autism diagnosis or even questioning if you're autistic, most times you're going to need new rules to live your life by because the old ones just don't work. You've been measuring yourself against a yardstick that does not measure you. It measures neurotypical people, and that's a regular yardstick, but ours is built like a curly Q. And so you're never going to measure out the way you think you should because you're using the wrong tool. And so with these if-then statements, you can give yourself better tools that actually relate to who you are and what you need in your life. So like we were just talking about with the waking up, an if-then statement would be, if I need to be awake before 10 a.m., then I have my sunlight alarm set. I have my coffee maker automatically set to a certain time so I can smell the coffee when I'm waking up. I will also have my outfit already laid out the night before because I know that if I don't do those things, then I'm going to be rushing in the morning and whatever I was supposed to be doing prior to 10 a.m., it won't feel good for me. So if-then statements. If this is happening, then this is what I do. Those are the rules, period. I don't have to negotiate with myself in that morning. I don't have to convince myself of what I need to do. And more importantly, I don't have to think, because it's so important with autistic individuals. If we can have things that are more routine, then we don't have to think through every step. We don't have to think through every single thing that we're doing. And we use our brains so much already to take in sensory information that taking away that extra decision helps us so much. We get so much decision fatigue.
Yeah. And that makes sense where the if-then statement for maybe a neurotypical person or someone who doesn't need accommodations, let's say, they would just say, if I need to wake up, then I set an alarm. So there's just taking that extra step and seeing whatever it is that you need for whatever situation.
Yeah. Our accommodations just look different because that is an accommodation for them. They need an alarm. We all need accommodations for different things. It's just autistic people, ADHDers, people who are have OCD, people who have anxiety, depression. Everyone needs different accommodations for different things. It's just with autistic people, we tend to need more environmental accommodations than other people do because of the way our brains are wired with sensory information.
Got it. Hey, Rachel here. Do you know anyone else who might benefit from listening to this episode? Maybe an autistic person wanting to grow their community, a parent wanting to support their loved one, or a professional wanting to develop their skills. I encourage you to share this episode if you'd like to help them out. And now, back to the conversation. Okay, so let's talk about your sons. So you have two autistic sons, right?
Yes.
How old are they?
9 and 11.
Okay, and how are they doing? What are some of their strengths and special interests?
They're doing great. They are the two best kids that have ever lived, according to me. I'm also very biased. Love my babies to the moon and back. My 11-year-old just started middle school. And so that is like, my mama heart is like, oh my God, my baby's growing up. But he's doing fantastic. He loves to draw. He makes his own comic books. He's always making his own different characters. He started doing his Pokemon. They have a Pokedex where they like have the Rolodex of all of their Pokemon. And so he's created some new Pokemon and he's making his own thing. He creates different things in Minecraft. He created a complete replica of our house and neighborhood in Minecraft.
Wow.
And that was, so cool. He created a map of Texas, like a general outline of Texas in Minecraft. And I'm just like, how and why? I don't know. But that's his jam. He loves that.
Yeah.
And my younger one, he loves animals. Always has loved animals. Right now, we're into axolotls. And so that is like his new thing. And we just got a shipment of axolotl stickers the other day where it's just like, I like to snack a lotl. I like to read a lotl. Like it's like all these plays on word with axolotl. So that's where we're at with that. Axolotls and flashlights. We have a million different kind of flashlights around the house. And he'll like to turn the lights off sometimes and just look at things under a flashlight.
Okay. And do they get along? Are they friends?
They're brothers. They are very different. They do have some similarities, but they're very, very different, like night and day. And so they do bump heads every now and then, but it's really cool to see them play together, learn together, love on each other. I love when they each come home from school because they go to different schools. When they come home from school, they ask the other one, like, how was your day? I missed you. And like they have their own independent conversations, and that always warms my heart. I love how kind they are to each other.
Beautiful. What do you think about when you think of their future?
That's a good question. I used to be afraid. For my oldest, he would be what would have used to have been considered higher functioning, right? So he appears more neurotypical, but he's not higher functioning. They're both have their strengths and struggles, and he has just as big of struggles as his brother does. But because he appears more neurotypical, he could probably mask and he could pass. He wouldn't have that struggle of appearing autistic, which of course is all the stigma we see in the world all the time. And so for him, I used to think that, he'll have some struggles, but he'll be okay. He'll be like I was. He'll be able to get through things and he'll be able to figure it out. He'll find his way. But I found that I was fearing for my younger son, who was less verbal. He was what you would have considered like level 2, I guess, if you want to call for autism. And the world was just going to be different for him. And I was sad for him and worried for him to see how his future is going to be until my husband reminded me. He was just like, he's happy. He's fine. It's you who are worried about what his life is going to look like. He's having a great time. He has great friends. He has teachers who love and care for him. He's learning how to do all kinds of things. He reads, he writes, he has all kinds of interests. He knows that he's special and he's important and he's intelligent. He's fine. We can help build that environment for him so that he can, pay bills and buy a car and all of those things that he'll have to do as an adult. But he will be okay because he is okay. And so it took my husband shifting that for me, realizing that ableism, that was what was kind of getting at me, that internalized ableism of will he have the white picket fence, 2.5 kids and a golden retriever? Like, will he have that? And I had to realize that he'll have whatever he wants. It doesn't have to look that way. And I thought that internalized ableism monster had been quelled a long time ago. But as a late diagnosed autistic person, it pops up every now and then in ways that you just don't expect. And that was what I didn't expect. I never expected I'd be like, oh no, my baby's autistic. What's going to happen? I've always been like, yay, autism. Let's go. We'll figure it out. We'll find a way. But I just got scared of how he was going to survive in a neurotypical coded world. And now I feel a lot more confident because I realize he's got it and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. And it's good to have a supportive partner to kind of remind you of those things along the way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I want to talk also about that intersection of autism with people of color. We've talked on the podcast before about the stigma of autism and just disability in general, mental health with the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk about where that stigma comes from? I've heard, some podcast guests talk about the distrust in the medical system, people turning to maybe priests or people in their church for support instead of therapy. Was that some of the reason that your family had a hard time accepting it?
I don't think it was religion. My family's not very religious, so I don't think it was that. It wasn't like pray the autism away. Like that wasn't our issue. It was more of it is a imperfection or a flaw. That's what they feel that it is. And we're not allowed to have those because we have to be a certain way. It's respectability politics. We have to look a certain way. We have to act a certain way if we want to elevate to whatever status we're supposed to be elevating to, if we want to break through glass ceilings, and you're not allowed to have things that would keep you from doing so. So any disability is a no. And a lot of times in the autism, in the Black community, any disability, anything that would be something that could potentially make you look like you're unqualified, make you look like you can't push as far as you absolutely can. And in my family in particular, we're in Houston, Texas, and my family has a lot of prominent people who do big things in the community. And you're forward facing into the Black community. People are looking at us as we're supposed to be pillars of this community. You are not allowed to have flaws. And they would have seen autism as a flaw, and it would be something that you would hide away. It would be something that you don't say, like, how are we going to spin this publicly for other people? What are we going to say? What are we going to do? And that's just not the philosophy that me and my husband live by. We could care less about the public opinion about autism when it comes to how we're presenting to other people. Our family is our family, and that is exactly, and I say our family, I mean my nuclear family, me, my husband, my kids, my dog. Like, we are us, and it's not going to dictate how we live our lives and the confidence that my children have based off of how other people think of them. It's internal, not external, and so I know in the Black community, a lot of it is that we're not allowed to be imperfect. And that is also the reason for the name of my company, Imperfect Consulting. It's the letter M, Perfect Consulting, so M for Meghan. But also, like, you're allowed to not appear perfect. You're allowed to be exactly who you are, and that's what's beautiful about you. All of the ways that you are imperfect are the things that make you you, and that is so special and important, and that's where you should go and dig and figure those things out for your authentic self. It is hard to be your authentic self in the Black community because there's just a lot of judgment. And it's not just judgment from other Black people, it's judgment from other races. Every time you're out in public, you're a representation of your race. And if we're out in public and I'm a representation of Black people and my child is having an autistic meltdown and people don't know that they're autistic, or even if they do know that they're autistic, I'm still being judged by my parenting. I'm being judged if I can't control my child. And so I get why the Black community is very insular about that. They're very like, we don't want other people to see us as whatever it is. We're trying to always control our image. But I mean, that's historical. We had to. If you were seen as weaker, you didn't make it. Like, period. I mean, it's straight up eugenics. You weren't allowed to be different. That's a lot of the reason why Black people wouldn't want their kids to be labeled with things like the whole, I don't want my child to be in special education. I don't want you to put a label on them. I get why that happened. I can see the care and concern for your child's future. But I can also see it on the other end if the label doesn't happen, 9 times out of 10, the help doesn't come either. And so then that child is suffering. And as a person who grew up autistic, there were times in which I suffered when I didn't know that I was even suffering for that reason academically. There were certain things that I could have had help with if I would have known I was autistic when I was younger. And so it's just kind of this double-edged sword. I completely understand where they're coming from. Our utmost concern is safety for our children at all times, and the world is just unsafe a lot of the times for Black people. And so I get where they're coming from. At the same time, not mine. My kids, we're going to live the way that we decide to.
Mm-hmm. Have you had a conversation, well, maybe your sons are a bit young now, but a conversation about police interactions?
Yes.
Yes, you have already.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And we don't have a choice. We have to. Because my son's also, my husband is 6'1", like he's pretty tall. He's a tall Black man. And my kids are also like, honestly, they're almost as tall as I am already. I'm 5'2.5". And so I'm like neck and neck with my 11-year-old, right? And so a lot of the world is going to see him as a man before they see him as a person. Even though he's 11, he's going to appear larger and threatening to a lot of other people. And so we've had to have the conversation with him. Certain things that your classmates may be able to do, you can't. Certain roughhousing and things on the playground, you can't do that. And I know that the teachers and the staff wouldn't want to be treating you differently because you're a larger Black child, but biases come in. And when it comes down to it, if we're looking at who's going to be the person who gets in trouble for it, it's probably going to be you. So therefore, you need to control yourself. You need to understand that if someone else has the opportunity to do something, it may not always be the opportunity that you get to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And how does he receive that information?
He's a very careful thinker. And so you'll see like the wheels turning in his head, and he'll sit there for a second and he'll think about it. He'll kind of chew on it, and then he'll come back with questions. He has all the questions all the time. Love his questions. Okay. And he's just like, okay, well, if I'm in public and the police say, get down on the ground, what am I supposed to do? If I'm in a store and someone thinks I'm stealing and I'm not, what am I supposed to do? He wants to troubleshoot it. Like, what am I supposed to do when these things happen? And the other questions are, but I'm not hurting other people. Why would people think that about me? And so then we go through all the history and things like that. One of his special interests currently is the civil rights movement. He decided that was something he wanted to really look into. And so he's very much learning about civil rights, human rights. He decided recently he'd like to be a lawyer when he gets older. No, I'm sorry. He wants to be a judge because he wants to bang the little hammer. That's his thing. He's like, I just want the hammer. Like, that's what I want. And so we talked about being a lawyer before a judge. But he's very social justice oriented, and he has all the questions. And so we just answer them. We talk about how people will misunderstand you at times because you're autistic and because your relationship to authority is different. Because with him, he also has that part where it's like, why should I listen to you just because you happen to be the principal or the bus driver or whomever? He does not see why there is a power differential. And so we discuss, like, even if you don't feel that there's a power differential, this is how the hierarchy works. And this is where you fit within the hierarchy. And even if you know that you may be smarter than your teacher, saying it out loud is probably not a good idea.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. I've heard that with other autistic people too, that not getting the different social hierarchies. Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and come back next Thursday for part 2 of this conversation, where Meghan and I discuss how parents can better understand their autistic children. Thanks for listening. Take care.